Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Jacob.
Hey, it's our culture unit. Where are we going to be going today?
We are going to be going to the small island country or city-state of Singapore. Have you been to Singapore before?
No, I haven't. I've heard they have really great food.
Okay.
But for me, when I go on vacation, I like to be cool.
Okay.
I don't like to sweat and be hot.
Right.
So it's probably not the place I'm going to pick to go.
You don't want to go closer to the equator than you are right now, is that?
No.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
No. I like to be cool. I like to go to the mountains. I don't even like to go to the beach because I just want to relax and not have to worry about sunburn and sweating.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you been there?
I have not. No. Again, it's I live in a city, so if I go on vacation, I might not want to go to another city that's kind of a little bit like the city that I live in. So maybe I probably wouldn't. I'm sure I'd have a good time. I'm sure there's some museums and things, and you can go and check out. In Singapore, there's they have the F1 race, which would be some fun, maybe. No, I haven't been, but maybe someday I'll have the chance to go there. I think when people go to Singapore, they usually go for what? Shopping? And they go maybe on business. Yeah, shopping and business would be the two reasons to go to Singapore, I think.
Yeah, I have a friend who went a couple years ago, and, she just went to shop. It's exactly what you said. She has a lot of money, and she went to shop. So
cool.
I haven't, but I've seen Singapore featured on a lot of travel shows, and they always talk about the food.
Yeah.
And the food does look really delicious.
Right.
So I can see having a good time. It's just that when I go on vacation, especially if you're like foreigners who live in Taiwan, you usually need to go home first to see family. So, it's hard to split up all your vacation time. We don't have that much. So we're going to talk about this cool city-state of Singapore and learn more about what their national icon or symbol is, the merlion.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of people have seen this before. I've never been there, as we talked about, but I sure knew what the merlion was. As soon as I saw it, I went, oh, that's Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to get started. We're going to read through, and then we'll be back to talk about Singapore.
As you wander along the promenade that follows the Singapore River, you peer into the distance and catch a glimpse of a mysterious creature. As you move closer, you realize this glorious white monument is not quite a lion and not exactly a mermaid. With the head of a lion and the body of a fish, this magnificent statue is none other than the merlion. Standing erect on the pier of Merlion Park, with massive skyscrapers in the background, the merlion has become synonymous with Singapore. The merlion was devised in 1964 by Alec Fraser Brunner for the Singapore Tourism Board with the aim of referring to Singapore's origins. The lion head represents the country's original name of Lion City. According to legend, when the Malay prince Sang Nila Utama landed on the island, he encountered what he believed to be a lion. This prompted him to name the island Singapura, which is derived from Sanskrit and means Lion City. While the merlion's head has a specific story associated with it, its scaly body simply pays tribute to Singapore's beginnings as nothing more than a sleepy fishing village. The merlion is the perfect national icon. It serves as a reminder of Singapore's rapid transformation from its humble past to a thriving financial hub. On your next trip to this sunny island, don't forget to snap a photo of one of the most photographed landmarks in all of Singapore. With a continuous stream of water jetting from its mouth, the merlion will make for some amusing photos.
Okay, folks, one of our vocabulary words is right there in the title. Why the merlion is Singapore's national icon. If you're an icon, you could be a person or a thing that represents or is a symbol of something else. For example, Michael Jackson, he is an icon of pop music. Elvis was the icon of rock and roll. We also use icon in another way, though, and it has to do with our computers or our smartphones. Those are those little pictures that represent a software program or an app, and if you click on it, it usually opens or closes. So that's an icon as well. Here we're talking about something that just represents Singapore as a country, and that's the merlion.
Right. So yeah, it's a really famous statue. We're going to talk about it, get to know it. It's white, so it's very striking. And right, where it's placed, it's in this park, and it's in front of these very modern skyscrapers, these very modern buildings. So it's interesting how they kind of have this statue. As you wander along the promenade that follows the Singapore River, you peer into the distance. Okay, so a promenade is a path. Let's say it's kind of a fancy name for a path, let's say. Usually, if you think of the city of Paris, there's the famous Champs-Élysées, right? The famous street that runs through Paris with its trees and cafes. That's kind of like a promenade, you might think of it like that, a fancy walking place. Okay, so this follows the Singapore River, and you're looking into the distance, and you catch a glimpse of a mysterious creature. This word mysterious, okay, you see the word mystery in there, right? So something that's mysterious, it's a little strange, maybe a little magical, let's say. It has a secret. There's something like secretive about it. It's mysterious. You don't really know. You can't really identify it, or you don't really know everything about it. So it makes you curious, let's say. So you see this mysterious creature and you're like, hey, what is that?
Yeah. If you don't know something about something, it's a mystery to you. So until you know more, it seems mysterious. So as you move closer, you realize this glorious white monument is not quite a lion and not exactly a mermaid. It's kind of a mixture of two. A monument can be a statue, it could be a building, it could be some sort of structure that they build to commemorate or remember a famous or notable person, or even an event, a monument. In Washington, D.C., in America, there's the Washington Monument that looks like this big, straight structure that goes way up into the sky. You've probably seen pictures of different kinds of monuments all around the world. Well, this one is really beautiful. It's glorious. It's white, as Jacob had mentioned, and it's part lion, part mermaid. So the head looks like a lion, but its body looks like a fish.
Right.
And a mermaid doesn't have legs. A mermaid is usually a beautiful female that has the legs that turn into a fin. So that's kind of what the bottom of this merlion looks like. So it's kind of an interesting combination of creatures.
Singapore is kind of an interesting place, so we're going to find out about the origins of the merlion and how they relate to Singapore. Okay, so it has the head of a lion and the body of a fish, and it's the merlion standing erect on the pier of Merlion Park. Okay, so the pier is basically a structure that goes out into a body of water. From a pier, you might have boats, like when boats will dock in a place. People will get off the boat and walk up the pier to get to the land, let's say. If you go fishing in the ocean, you might fish off of a pier because you can then drop your line into the water and there might be some fish down there. Okay, so we have a pier here, and the park is known as Merlion Park. So the park is named after these statues, these figures. And with massive skyscrapers in the background, the merlion has become synonymous with Singapore. Okay, if something is synonymous here, it kind of means the two are almost equal. Like if you think of Singapore, in your head, one of the first images that will come to mind will be the merlion. Okay? So if one thing is synonymous with another, we kind of mean that they're the same, they're equal to each other.
They're associated together.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you think of one, then you pretty much very quickly will think of the next one. So you think of the merlion, you know that it's the symbol of Singapore. If you think of Singapore, then besides shopping or going there on business, you will probably think of the merlion.
Right. And it's cool. It's a really cool park. If you get online, you can check out some pictures. Nowadays, it's lots easier to just go on a virtual vacation if you get on your computer and check some pictures out. Some of these sites will have some 360 views of these beautiful areas of the world. So it's kind of fun to check it out. Right now, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back.
听众朋友大家好，我们今天要带大家一起去新加坡看一下鱼尾狮哦。其实就算你没有去过新加坡，大概照片都看得到哦。这个鱼尾狮 merlion 实在是非常有名，所以如果你真的过去的话，你沿着新加坡的河岸走，就可以看到一种很神秘的生物。然后呢，看起来像是一个狮子，因为它有狮头，可是它又有鱼尾，对不对？好，这就是所谓的鱼尾狮。好，我们刚刚提到的这是第一段的第一句跟第二句，因为我们要特别注意句首的 as。as 在英文当中啊，它当然可以当介系词，但它也可以当连接词。当连接词的意思就是它后面接的是句子，所以我们在第一句后面有看到主词 you， 动词 wonder。在第二句也一样，在 as 之后看到主词的 you 跟动词的 move， 那就表示 as 在这两句当中是连接词。在这一段的一二句，这里的 as 都是 when 的意思，当你如何如何，当你如何如何。好，同样在第一段，请注意第三句的地方。第三句的句首这里的 with， 它是一个介系词，就是有表示附带状况，或中文我们说有的意思。那在这整篇的文章当中，除了第一段的第三句，还有接下来的第四句，第四句在中间逗点之后的 with， 也是同样的词性跟用法。还有第二段的第一句，在中间后面的地方有一个 with the aim of， 这里的 with 也是同样介系词，有附带状况的意义。而在第三段第四句的地方，句首的 with 同样也是介系词，有表示附带状况的意义。好，那不过因为我们这篇的文章是设计成综合测验克漏字，我们就要接下来看到第一题最关键最困难的这种所谓有一点文法的题目了。要解开这个第一题呢，首先看一下第四句的地方。这个第一题后面的 erect 在这里是形容词，表示直立耸立的意思。这整句话的意思是说呢，鱼尾狮就矗立在鱼尾狮公园的码头上，后面就是摩天大楼，而且呢已经成为新加坡的同义词。所以在这里我到底要怎么选呢？首先我们看一下 A 选项的 standing， 它有可能是动词 ing 当主词，可是如果是动词 ing 当主词，它的用法有可能会跟 C 一样，因为 to do something 也可以当成句子的主词。那如果你把它这个所谓的站立当成是句子的主词的时候，不管选 A 或者是选 C， 在逗点之前一定会出现动词嘛，总是会有一个主词 standing 或者是 to stand 再加动词，可是没有，所以 A 跟 C 我们都不能选。B 选项的 stood 它有可能是过去式或者是被动，如果它是过去式，那它主词在哪嘞？那如果它是被动式的话，言下之意它是分词构句吗？那文意又不通。好，所以呢，猪选项的 it stand 感觉好像是真正的这个句子的答案。可是如果你想要选 D 选项 it stands， 逗点之后又没有连接词，那这个时候就很奇怪，那到底要怎么选呢？其实 A 选项的 standing 还有分词构句的解释哦。那么在这里的 standing 跟逗点之后的 the merlion其实是同样的一个主词，它都是在讲鱼尾狮，鱼尾狮就矗立在那里，逗点鱼尾狮已经是新加坡的同义词，所以其实它是一个连接词 and 省略的分词构句。句子本来应该是 The merlion stands erect， 点点点，然后逗点之后再加上 and the Merlion has become 点点点，句子完成。所以有时候我们在描述主词的一个状况，我们干脆呢两个句子都在描述主词状况，干脆把连接词的 and 省略，形成分词构句。那么言简意赅的话呢，文章是比较漂亮的。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about Singapore and their national icon that's called the merlion, which has a head of a lion and a body of a fish or mermaid. It's quite beautiful. And when we left you, we were talking about the Merlion Park. When you go there, you can see the merlion. It's standing right there on the pier of the park. And in the background, you see those really tall skyscrapers. That's what a skyscraper is, a building that's very tall.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of land in Singapore, so everything they build goes up, kind of like Hong Kong.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of land, so all of their buildings are very, very high. They're skyscrapers.
Right.
Well, the merlion is the national icon or something that people associate with, or it's become synonymous with the city-state of Singapore itself.
Okay, let's continue. Now we're going to learn a little bit about the history of the merlion. The merlion was devised or invented, or kind of the idea, they came up with it, in 1964 by this gentleman, Alec Fraser Brunner, for the Singapore Tourism Board. Okay, so right, what does a city want to do? It wants to market itself, right? It wants people to come visit. It wants people to come visit and spend money, of course.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the Tourism Board does. So they were thinking, okay, well, how can we attract people to our city? Well, let's come up with maybe even a mascot or a symbol of our city, and we'll call it the merlion. Okay, so they came up with it in 1964. Now, it had the aim of referring to Singapore's origins. Okay, right. So a symbol of a place, you'll need to it will have to make sense, okay? It will have to have some sort of thing that is a connection to the past or even the present, let's say. So what they're trying to do is connect the merlion to Singapore's origins. The lion head represents the country's original name of Lion City. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, so Singapore, the original name of Singapore, we find out here, is the Lion City. Now, how did Singapore get the name Lion City?
Well, in the next sentence, it gives us the answer to the question. So it says, according to legend. According to just means as stated by the legend, or what you hear in the legend is where it got its name. A legend is a story.
Yeah.
A legend could be a story that's written down or just passed down through generation after generation. People tell the same story. So it's a traditional story that becomes popular over time. So according to legend, and notice we don't say according to a legend. You could say that. That's not incorrect. But this is a phrase we often will use. According to legend, and then a comma. According to legend, you'll often see this. It's a very famous way to start a sentence when you're describing how something came into being or why something is the way it is.
Yes.
So according to legend, there was a Malay prince. Malay means he is from Malaysia. And if you're from Malaysia, they'll often call you Malay. Or he's Malaysian, you could say as well. Malay prince, and this is the name, Sang Nila Utama. He landed on the island. Singapore and Malaysia are very close to each other, so it's not hard to go from one to the other. He encountered or ran into what he believed to be a lion. Of course, we know now there were no lions on Singapore.
Right. I don't think that Singapore doesn't have lions. Malaysia doesn't have lions either. So
You'll sometimes see tigers in Asia, but not lions.
I was going to say, maybe tigers.
Not naturally. They might be in the zoo these days, but, but not naturally. So he ran into what he thought was a lion, and this prompted him to name the island, and he was naming the whole country of Singapore, Singapura or Singapura, which is derived from Sanskrit and means lion city. Sanskrit's the ancient language of India.
Yes.
In which the Hindu scriptures and classical Indian epic poems are written. And that's the language from which many northern Indian languages are now derived, or where they came from. So this is what he came up with. Singapura, and again, it's from Sanskrit. So that kind of tells you where the name Singapore comes from. To be derived from, what does that mean, Jacob?
Well, to derive is to come from something, let's say. So here, Singapura, it's derived from Sanskrit. So it comes from Sanskrit, and it means lion city. So we're talking if something is derived from something else, we kind of take one thing, and from that, we get the meaning of another. With languages, will often be one word will be derived from something else. So because languages, they're always borrowing from each other and things. And so this is an example of it here, that we have the word is being derived. Singapura is derived from Sanskrit, and it means lion city. It comes from the Sanskrit.
While the merlion's head has a specific story associated with it, its scaly body simply pays tribute to Singapore's beginnings as nothing more than a sleepy fishing village. Yeah, that's how they started out. That's how they made their money. That was what their economy was based on, was fishing. Everybody was fishing. It was a sleepy fishing village, meaning all life was kind of relaxed and slow-moving. It's not like that anymore. Singapore is considered to be a financial hub, which we'll talk about. When something's scaly, you'll see that word associated with fish. It's the scales cover a fish's body. So that's where that comes from. Now, if you're paying tribute to someone, it means you're doing something to honor them, to point out that you respect something they've done, to show your admiration. So, he actually came up with this just to pay tribute or to honor those fishermen who made their living fishing and providing food for everyone to eat.
Right. So the idea of the merlion kind of takes these two things. The history of it, a long time ago, the lion, we had a prince who thought he saw a lion in Singapore. And then you have another part of the history, which is it was a fishing village. It was a sleepy fishing village. And so, of course, fish have scales, and so they put the body of the fish to make the merlion. So you have these two things that are kind of coming together, which is really great because when you think of Singapore, you actually think of a multicultural city in that it has these Indian roots, let's say, these Malaysian roots, these Chinese roots, and all of these kind of come together in this modern city of Singapore. And I think weren't the British in control of Singapore for a long time? So you have the English influence as well.
Yeah. And if you've been over there or watched any of their news broadcasts, which I have, you'll hear that British accent come out. So, you'd feel comfortable there if you speak Mandarin because they speak Mandarin as well. But you'll hear English spoken with either the Singapore accent, which is one of their own, or with a British accent, which is fun.
Yeah.
So the merlion is the perfect national icon. It serves as a reminder of Singapore's rapid transformation from its humble past, humble meaning they didn't have a lot of money. You know, they were just very humble fishermen, and it transformed or changed from that to a thriving or very successful financial hub. A hub is kind of the center of activity. We'll often talk about flying into a city on an airplane, and that's considered that airline's hub.
Sure.
So you might be wanting to go to a small town in Texas, but you have to first fly to New York City and then change planes. So those big hubs actually have a lot of people there changing to smaller planes to then go on. That's a hub. So on your next trip to this sunny island, if you get to go, Don't forget to snap a photo of one of the most photographed landmarks in all of Singapore. If it's a landmark, you know what that means. It's a very famous structure, building, or even could be something that you find in nature like a big tree or a huge lake. If it's a landmark, it's a feature of that particular town or country that's easily seen, that people recognize it from a distance, and it's pretty famous.
Yeah, some of my famous landmarks. The Statue of Liberty, of course, is near and dear to you, Stephanie. That's a landmark of New York City. Here in Taiwan, we have Taipei 101. That's a landmark of Taipei. And we have the Merlion in Singapore. And then, of course, the hotel behind it with kind of the circular roof. Do you know that they have the towers and then on the top it's connected?
Yep.
It's very famous.
Pretty.
With a continuous stream of water jetting from its mouth. The Merlion will make for some amusing photos. Okay, so there's a continuous stream of water. That means a lot of fountains. Sometimes the water will come out and then it will stop, and then it will come out again, and then it will stop. But here at the Merlion, the water is always coming out of the mouth. That means it's continuous. It's never ending. It doesn't stop. It's always happening.
It never stops. It never ceases. And the Merlion will make for some amusing photos because that water is constantly shooting out from its mouth. That's what jetting out or jetting means.
Yes.
To kind of shoot out. Amusing, of course, you know that word. It just means something that makes you laugh, that provides some entertainment or is very enjoyable.
So maybe you can get a picture and it can be like the Merlion is spraying you with water and then you look very surprised.
Could be fun.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I'd be up for that.
Okay, guys. One more time, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher and then we'll be back to say goodbye.
那么接下来第二段就会谈到鱼尾狮它的历史啊，或者是起源。我们特别注意第二段第三句的地方，它有一个复合关代哦。这里第三句，请特别注意一下句子后面的地方。句子后面的地方有一个逗点，当王子来到这个岛的时候，逗点 he encountered。他遇见了 what he believed to be a lion。 好，这里的 what 你可以把它框起来，它是一个复合关代。复合关代的复合的意思就是关系代名词把先行词给包含进去。言下之意 what 它就是 something 先行词跟关系代名词的 that。他就遇见了 something 一个东西，什么东西呢？ That he believed to be a lion， 他相信他认为是狮子的一个东西。好，可是我们中文会说他认为是狮子的那个东西 What he believed to be a lion， 刚好呢在这里就形成了一个复合关代。好，所以接下来呢，我们就看到啦，这就是当时为什么王子会把这一座岛命名为 Singapore， 它其实是源自于梵语，就是所谓狮城的意思。好，那当然这个狮头的这个鱼尾狮的头部是跟这个狮子这样子的确切故事有关。不过鱼鳞片状的身体呢，是因为当时的新加坡啊，本来是个极近渔村这样子的一个原因。好，我们同样看第二段，在第5句的地方哦。首先句首这里的 while 是 although 的意思，那么后面 has a special story。specific story has a specific story 其实有一个省略简化的关系子句，从后面的 associated with it 可以左右括号，它省略的是 that 或者是 which跟 be 动词的 is。 那接下来我们看到在第3段的地方，第3段呢，也就是出现在题目当中第4题。第4题其实呢，我们在后面的 from 跟 to 这个地方就隐含了它是一种转变，而 from 中间夹着一个关键字叫做 humble past， 那么 to 呢后面有一个关键是 thriving， 现在很繁盛，所以它是一个从一个 humble past极近的渔村一直到繁荣金融中心的一种 transformation， 一种转变。所以第4题答案要选 C。 所以下一次如果你有机会可以去新加坡的话，不妨可以好好欣赏这个鱼尾狮哦。我是安娜，我们下次见。
Thanks for joining us, everybody. That's it for our culture unit. We hope you all get a chance to go see the Merlion, Singapore's national icon someday. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Jacob. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.